Okay, hello and welcome to part 3, the JET interview process, probably labeled 103. And this is probably the last one I'm going to do today. You know, these 3 I did just in a row, but I'll of course start to see all the comments and the questions that I get and respond with more videos perhaps next week, and you know, see what else I can possibly tell you. Okay, so we've talked about questions that you're going to get, and what was I going to tell you? Oh, my friend Eric and Ashley, when I talked to them, they both mentioned that they were never asked anything about Japan or anything. They never had to speak Japanese. They were never asked about their level of Japanese. So don't worry too much about that. I would refrain from going in and bowing and saying "Hajimemashite, watashi wa Jason desu," you know, and trying to impress them with your Japanese. If they ask you a question about your Japanese ability, then of course, you know, respond honestly. I would respond honestly, because again, you do not need to be able to speak any Japanese to be a JET. I think I did mention the fact that I was minoring in Japanese studies. It came up in the conversation in my interview, and that I had studied Japanese for 1 year in college. But they never spoke to me in Japanese or asked me anything. I had read online back in 2004 when I was doing this that they quizzed you, like one JET in like the Washington State Embassy or something. One interviewer always liked to say, "Do you know who the Prime Minister is? What's the Japanese currency?" You know, and questions like this. And that might have been true, you know. Maybe that was his thing, you know, to try and either fluster or just figure out how much people actually knew about the country they were going to live in. So I studied, you know. I mean, I already knew a little bit because I had, you know, been studying Japanese politics in college. But I found out like the population, you know, how big Japan was, you know, what were the biggest cities, you know, blah, 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 blah. And it never came up. I've never heard any other JET when I've talked to them about their interview mention, you know, having to know about Japan itself. But, you know, that doesn't hurt. If you go on, just, you know, spend a day on Wikipedia on the Japan page and, you know, learn a little bit about the country. You know, Aso-san is the current Prime Minister, in case you're wondering, although many wish he weren't. Anyway, so, you know, every now and then you're going to get lucky. My friend Eric, when he was talking, said that, I'm going to reset my stopwatch here, the guy, the professional that was part of his 3-person panel was a lawyer, and Eric, before he came, was a lawyer as well. So they immediately, you know, started to talk a little bit about, oh, where'd you go to law school, and blah, blah, blah. So, you know, maybe you can get lucky in that way. You know, anything that helps you set the whole tone of the interview, you know, it eases it out, makes you less nervous, is a good thing. Ashley, funny enough, when I was talking, you know, about appropriate dress and attire, and I brought that up to her, you know, what did you wear to your interview? I asked Eric, and he said, oh, I wore a suit. And Ashley said she went to interview in New York, and she was supposed to fly in the night before, but it snowed or something, so she ended up flying in the morning of the interview, and she had thought it was going to be sunny there, even though it was snowing where she was or something, and so she didn't bring an umbrella, but it ended up being rainy in New York, and she got wet, you know, getting to the building, and so she didn't look her best, was the bottom line. And obviously she's here in Japan. So, you know, try as much as you can to, you know, find out where you have to go, map it out, you know, make sure that you're going to be there in plenty of time before your interview, all that kind of standard common sense stuff. Okay. So the other big thing that almost everybody I've talked to gets asked in the JET interview is to do some kind of demonstration lesson. They will ask you about teaching, of course, you know, maybe they'll look at your application, ask you about your previous experience that you might have listed. How do you feel about teaching, you know, 8-year-olds? How do you feel about teaching, you know, 15-year-olds? I think on the application you were able to put, you know, your preference maybe for school, or maybe not a preference, but would you be willing to teach at elementary school, shogakko, primary school, and maybe they'll ask you about that. But almost everybody I've talked to has been asked to teach some kind of lesson. Ashley, when I spoke to her, she said that she was asked to get up and pretend that she was introducing herself and her country to a group of Japanese children around the age of 10. Eric was asked to teach, very similar to my question, was asked to teach a holiday. And so he chose Halloween, I believe he said. I was also asked in my interview, you know, please, you know, get up and teach a holiday. I recommend standing up for it. They had a board behind me, like a whiteboard that I could use, but I don't know if I wrote on it or not. And so I chose the 4th of July. Okay, why did I choose the 4th of July? My birthday is July 6th. So I had notions that I would segue from the 4th of July to it's also my birthday. And I was an American Histories major and was taking in college at the time of my interview. And so I got up there and started to talk about why we have the 4th of July, how it's Independence Day and, you know, the Constitution. And they stopped me. After about 30 seconds or a minute, they stopped me and said, okay, that's all very good, but remember, you're talking to, you know, Japanese students in elementary school who have almost no English ability. So it kind of like, oh, okay, you know, like, and so I restarted and I talked about going to see fireworks and I used more gestures, and I should have said something like, you know, one of the things we do on the 4th of July is barbecue, and, you know, and then ask them a question. Even, you know, because the panel were supposed to be pretending that they were the students. So I should have said, do you like barbecue? And maybe one of them would have said, yes. Oh, I like barbecue. In America, we barbecue hot dogs and hamburgers. What do you barbecue in Japan? And just been sort of like that and been more interactive. But of course, you know, one of the things you'll do in the interview is you'll completely second guess yourself the entire way home for the next few weeks. You'll go, oh, I could have done this better. Oh, I should have answered that. And I went over and over and thought, God, I'd totally blown it. And of course, you know, I got the job and I'm here. So don't worry too much. But, you know, think about a demonstration lesson. Maybe, you know, like Ashley's, a Jiko Shokai, a self-introduction. Just, you know, a few things you can get up and say very simply about you know, hi, my name is, and, you know, go back and watch my Jiko Shokai vlog on my main page, and or a lesson. I should have picked Christmas, Halloween, because they're so much more visual. Even though I wouldn't have had props, I could have talked about, and in Halloween we carve out a pumpkin and we put it outside our house, and we wear masks that are scary, and, you know, I could have been more like that. Even Valentine's Day, you can talk about hearts and how it's boys and girls, giving candy and Valentine cards, but I picked the 4th of July. Anyway, so be prepared to do a little bit of a demonstration lesson. And don't be too flustered by that. You know, they just wanted me to get up there and do it for like 2 minutes. They don't want you to, you know, they don't expect you to have thought it out completely. So it's part of like, you know, how much can you think on your feet? And, you know, how will you be standing up? So again, speak very slowly, very clearly, and use very simple vocabulary when you're pretending that they're the students. Okay, I think that's going to wrap it up for part 3, and again, all the best of luck to you guys. You know, please tell me how your interviews went, if they're finished, and when they're coming up, as you get those letters. I'd especially like to hear from any Jets that are in Australia, or New Zealand, or South Africa, or Ireland, some of the more underrepresented countries here on YouTube. So, and of course, my North American Jets, you know, please let me know, and Again, hopefully I'll have a few more of these in the coming weeks as I think of anything else to talk about, or I respond to your comments and questions. Okay? Thanks for watching. Bye.